I'm waiting on Councillor Walker to say. Okay, so we'll get back underway and we'll move to the financial report, item 7.1, page 3. And we've got Paul and Matt. So over to you.
Through the chair. Kia koto, councillors. Thank you all. These are the results for the period 1 July 2025 through to 31 March 2026.
Just note that I think we've got two councillors have joined us now on Zoom. We've got Councillor Morgan and Councillor Fernyholt. Sorry.
Cool. Results tracked in line with recent months and are showing slight improvements in the operating position heading into the final quarter of the financial year. Points to note are the balanced budget position held and is gradually improving. Net debt is under the planned target of 305 million at 299 million at the end of March. It will rise in April, then will drop in May, with NZ paying almost 18 million of weather event related subsidy to us. And outlook is to be below or around the $305 million target at 30 June 2026. Capital expenditure recorded in March was 6.4 million and will continue at a slightly higher rate in April. And just to final point before passing over to questions is this report is in the currently used format and work is being undertaken at the moment to change and improve that format in the future. Thank you, councillors.
Okay, so questions of Paul and Matt on the report? I'll give you, Councillor Woods, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Paul. We've seen development contributions lower than expected or against budget. Is there any sign of these turning around?
Through the chair, I can get back to you next time. They seem to be, there's nothing material would be my view at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Only one question. Oh, Councillor Walker. Otherwise, we're going to let these guys off real light.
Thank you, through you, Chair. 3.2, when we're talking about continued improvement in the benchmarks expected with insurance recoveries and other weather event, are we talking about the June-July event still?
Through the chair, correct, yes we are.
Okay, so my question through you, Chair, is there a cap on how long those claims can be sat still valid in their system? And are we actively engaging with them around any traction of answers other than the vague figures that we'd been given some time ago?
Through the chair, we're certainly engaging with them. Deirdre Hamama is in conversation, as is David from the Rivers team. I don't think they ever lapse. The claims are always live. It's just a matter of working it through to a conclusion. So there's no time frame as such, which doesn't help us. Obviously, the quicker we resolve this, the resource can obviously start doing something more productive than trying to bash heads with insurers to get the claims ready. So yeah, it certainly is active and will continue to be, but yeah, no time frame of them actually lapsing per se. It will get resolved. It's just how long.
Councillor Morgan, I see your hand up and welcome to the meeting.
Yes, it's good that technology allows us on. Thank you. My question is around the maintenance, the reactive maintenance. If I'm reading right, with the storm, it's sort of running at 29 million now, I think you commented, and higher. the issue around whether it's reactive maintenance as or capital cost. Are you thinking that it could be a material number and therefore fall into capital?
Through the chair, the work on potentially reclassifying some of that reactive maintenance from the storm event to capital expenditure is ongoing. The amount, I cannot give you an exact amount on that at the moment.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate you can't give us a thing, but do you have a sense of, having had a second look at it, what may fall into capital? Because obviously that's running at a low percentage, and if you've had damaged assets that were going to be renewed anyhow, on your program, I'd imagine that could fall to capital.
Matt?
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, that's completely right. That analysis, again, is happening at the moment. Audit are very aware of the issue and want to make sure we categorise it correctly. So work is progressing, but trying to put a number on it at this stage is again, not possible. But that number will be available because audit will be expecting it for the annual report. I suppose one other comment on the actual expenditure associated with the event, be it capital or operating, predominantly it is going to be operating in nature, and you're very aware that we're looking to fund that through the new targeted rate in the annual plan for next year, or at least to start funding it. So to an extent, whether it's CapEx or OpEx is moot, in that we're looking, we have got a rate in place to start getting that balance between what we spend and what we get from the insurers / NZTA, that with the balance of the 14.6 coming from council.
Thank you.
Councillor Butler?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Chair, just about the employee-related expenses, I see that they're slightly under budget, and I'm just wondering, I mean, you may not have this information, but whether or not it's expected, given that there's a delay in staff being replaced, that I'm aware of. Are we expected to use up all our budget, or are we using employee-related expenses as a way to actually reduce our expenditure overall?
Through the chair, yes, I would expect the underspend in employee-related expenses to continue to grow. We're not fully spending all our budget there, and I would expect that current underspend to grow higher for the end of financial year.
Okay, so does that
CEO
mean
Leone.
that staff are not being are we operating a program of attrition, or?
Through the chair, we are under budget. So remember, those who are here, turn their mind to our annual plan that we were in this year, and when it was set, we took 1.4 million off the employee costs, and we're below that again. So we're actually making more than what we said. That's due to delays in recruitment. Some roles are hard to recruit, so they take several months sometimes. So that often helps with that number. We're very stretched. We wouldn't recommend going any lower than that. In many areas where we have lost people, some of that is a bit of a sinking lid. We've made some efficiencies. So there's a whole lot of reasons, but my recommendation wouldn't be to try and be too much under the end of the year. If we can land the plane on the budget that we got, would be actually ideal, but because of the delays in recruitments and all the challenges we're having with that, then we're likely to be under. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Killamon? Yep. And I'm looking for a mover and a seconder as well.
Okay, I'll move it. But I've got a question as well. Page 6, clause 4.6. talk about the sales of ETS credits and properties. I remember at a previous council where we talked about the sale of these credits and properties. The funds were going to go into a diversified resilience fund. Maybe Matt, if you want to just update what's going on there.
Through the chair, the $3 million of ETS credits has gone in. It still needs to be reflected as a revenue item, but where that money is sitting in the resilience fund that is managed by Russell Investments. That in due course will be coming back to you as part of the enterprise report. Maybe even today. I'm not sure if that's on the agenda, but certainly we're starting to actually get dollars back on that $3 million, as you would expect, in terms of where that money is being invested. The sale of assets is slightly different. Again, you need to show it in the revenue, but that was tagged to be offsetting debt with the resulting reductions in rates, etc. So again, that is happening in the background. On the face of it, though, you still need to show that other revenue in your profit and loss, as we currently do.
Through the chair, so that is true. The only thing I'd add is that as of a month ago, in accordance with the annual plan, we were instructed to sell another $350,000 of emissions trading scheme credits, which didn't go into the diversified equity fund, and that's occurred as requested by council. I think is helping to offset the rates movement for next year.
Okay, that's fine. I just thought at the time that it was not to offset the rates. I thought it was.
There was two different, as I remember, because I was on the committee with you. Yep. So there was $3 million, and then there was a little bit left, and the price actually I see went up, so we got more. But there was two different bundles, and one was a very small bundle that was left, 350, as opposed to the 3 million.
So we've got no ETS credits left.
Yeah, through the chair, there's actually three tranches. Essentially, we don't have much left at all. But there was 3 million that was for the fund that we've talked about, the 350 just recently. Prior to that, there was another $3 million that was actually used to offset over expenditure in the 24-25 year. So that was because we knew we had problems again with Three Water maintenance and with our interest costs. So a decision was taken by council to sell those to offset those. Dwayne?
Yep. Through the chair, just to stress, those were unencumbered, meaning that they weren't tied to a harvest, a need to chop down trees and came for it. We do have emissions trading scheme credits because we use them to protect the value of our forests, because when you chop down the forest, you've got to forego your credit. So we have them for that purpose still.
I've got another question. I've just got to get my head around it before I ask it.
All right, I'll move to Councillor Woods, who I hope is going to second this report.
Yeah, happy to second through the chair. Just going back to the reclassification of costs between OPEX and CAPEX on the flood damage. Can you reassure me that we're not going to create a double dip scenario where the CAPEX underfunded already or underspent is already covered by the general rate? If we move costs from the flood damage from the OPEX, which is currently going to be covered by the targeted rate, surely that reduces what we should be charging in that targeted rate, because it's already going to be covered in the general rate, which goes to the CAPEX.
Through the chair, I can assure you that we are not. What we are doing is identifying lines in the actual activities where the costs are falling. We then, through the mechanisms of reserves, take out the impact on that from roading and move it to a particular cost centre that we've set up purely for this targeted rate. So essentially we spend in roading, we then via reserves take that to another account, the emergency account, and fund it that way. So we're definitely not double dipping. but it's done through the use of the general ledger to give that effect. So we've got ring fence cost, if you like, associated with the emergency event, as opposed to the rest of business.
Okay, just make sure you keep that clarity, because I'm sure there could be some ratepayer questions on that one.
No, definitely. So literally, we've got 40 or 50 general ledger codes that were set up purely to track the emergency event cost. Those same 50 codes will be funded from the emergency event rate. So they are distinct, and there is a specific known list. So yes, we're comfortable that will and will continue to occur.
But the shift to CapEx will come off the capital budget as well, won't it?
The shift from CapEx to OpEx will just occur between those 50 GL codes. Like, it'll still be part of the emergency event response.
One thing for sure, NZTA will audit everything you do, and so will Audit New Zealand. So you can be assured, because we've just had an audit from NZTA in relation to how we deal with this.
And through the chair, indeed we did. They haven't given us a report back, but in due course that'll come back to the Audit and Risk Committee. One of my staff was part of that, and the issues that were raised were reasonably immaterial. There's a couple of things that we need to improve on, as you'd expect, but that will come back in due course, probably to the June Audit and Risk Committee.
Deputy Mayor Mara, and then I'll go back to Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up on Dave's question, because I think I've been thinking the same. So through the storm event, if there was works that was done that will get recoded as CapEx and renewal, some of those projects that we did renewal and capital work on in our existing capital projects, our capital fund going forward. So have we replaced some assets earlier through the storm recovery that were also budgeted in a long-term CapEx program? So that's that question.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if that had occurred, we in one breath would be spending it as part of the emergency event at the moment. In another breath, we won't be spending it as part of the roading program. Yes. So that would have reduced down to zero, let's say, and as such won't be part of any additional rates that we need to collect, because we're collecting it from the emergency event.
And so that adjustment gets done when, because that adjustment hasn't happened yet. So at the moment we've got emergency capital works that may get reprioritised. The capital works in our capital program, I suspect, are still sitting in there.
There may be some of that, but the not much.
Okay.
The bigger issue is that within those emergency codes, we've funded things to operating costs that should have gone to a capital code. So it's the accountants coming in and going, that's actually capital in nature, not operating in nature. So it's more to get your balance sheet looking correct that they're concerned.
Councillor Kittermont, you had a question you were thinking about?
No, I'll withdraw it.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So it's been moved, Councillor Kittermont, second Councillor Woods, that we received the report. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Excellent report. Now we'll move to the Motueka Master Plan update, and I think it's Diana and Barry. So this is on page 49. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Morena koutou. So just a bit of an overall recap in terms of this report. Last year, via the Strategy and Policy Committee, staff discussed with elected members in relation to the need to work with the Motueka community to undertake a master plan process. And this would set out the long-term strategic direction for the town, and it would inform our council work programs. However, we know that resource management system reform is upon us now, and so we need to ensure that our current work plans align with this future direction. So we're very much aware that under the new legislation, next year we'll be required to start regional spatial planning. And so this will set out the strategic direction for growth and infrastructure investment over the next 30 years across the district. In addition to this, regional spatial planning will also require us to identify communities in high-risk locations that will need to prepare for and respond to the impacts from climate-related natural hazards. And so this future adaptation planning process will come through an amendment to the Climate Change Response Act. However, we haven't seen that draft legislation yet. So taking this into consideration, the issues that we would work through a master plan process will actually now be addressed through these future legislative processes. And so the staff recommendation is that we integrate the master plan into these work programs rather than being a standalone work program. However, in leading into this future planning processes, we see that there is a need to undertake educational community engagement with the Motueka Ward to raise awareness of the opportunities and challenges that Motueka faces and to prepare the community so they're able to have meaningful discussion as part of these future planning processes. And so it's proposed that this engagement would take place over the remainder of this year, and staff would work with the Motueka Community Board, which includes our 3 ward councillors, and the community board would work with them in terms of being an advisory panel role to develop the engagement work program and to also implement it. So happy to take any questions, thanks.
So I've got Councillor Neubauer, close, and then I've got the Deputy Mayor, and I'm sure there'll be others.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was not only close, that was almost perfect. I've got a question regarding, I commend you for taking the time now to move into this engagement. I think that's urgently needed. The question that I have is, when I look at the process that's outlined in the papers, we do this engagement / consultation, and then we move to a spatial plan, and then we move it to the adaptation plan, and 10 years later, that adaptation plan feeds into the next iteration of the spatial plan. What I'm missing, or this is a question for you, how will this engagement that we're doing now actually inform the first regional spatial plan, rather than needing to revisit things through statutory processes again later on?
Through the chair, as part of spatial planning, we need to talk about what our objectives are. What does the community want? So what's their outcomes? So this engagement will help drive that discussion to get to that point. And so once we've landed in terms of what the community sees as being their strategic direction, and then it can inform into that spatial planning framework.
Through the chair, that's fantastic. From that, just to clarify that in the resolution that we're passing today, I would like to move an amendment to point 3, and that includes approve staff and that the outcomes of this engagement be used to inform the development of the first regional spatial plan.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but I'll let others speak to it, because I read that before the meeting. I would have thought if you're doing this engagement, you would be using it. Otherwise, why would you do it? Pretty straightforward. But that's just spelling it out, so that's fine. Do we have a seconder to that amendment? Yep, Councillor Hume, so that's good. All right, so I think that will be fine. I'll go to the Deputy Mayor, because I think this really concerns the Motueka councillors first and foremost.
Concern probably is the right word. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just confirm, Diana, that item 3 in the original resolution and and 11.9 mean the same thing? So I know there was the concern around extending the scope to the Motueka ward, and that's captured in the terms of the staff comment 11.9, but does it mean in the resolution that's up there that it is extended to the whole Motueka ward?
Through the chair, in terms of the focus, we'll be looking at Motueka Township, but we can have that discussion with the Motueka ward and think about how do the Kaitiritiri and Maraho and other communities interact.
So thank you through the chair. You may have just lost me. I'm one of the two councillors that raised that in that workshop. Is for us, for Motueka, I think back in terms of what that means to me in terms of horticulture and primary industries, but tourism is essentially equally as important to Motueka and Kaiteri. Now, it adds a significant amount of population to our communities for 2 months or 3 months of the year. So to ignore that, and Maraha, the gateway to the Able Tasman, which is the other significant thing that you can't avoid Motueka to get to those things from, I think you're losing me on this. But I'll wait to see what my fellow councillor comes, because in terms of all the impacts on Motueka, including some other sites that might be slightly out of this map, they may be in there if the map has changed, where we're talking about some future other opportunities to develop some development. If it's restricting that conversations, then you've just lost me. I should just say, is Seaview Heights in this?
Through the chair, I think just to clarify, I think we are on the same page here in terms of what this engagement could look like, and we can tease it out further as we develop the communications plan. Because certainly that wider economic influence, as you're saying, tourism, well, etc., it is all part of that discussion for Motueka.
And so through the chair, is map figure 4, is that what we're referring to in this, or are we referring to another geographical area in that resolution?
So through the chair, that map is the Motueka ward. That is the ward boundary.
And so that's where this project relates to?
Yes.
All of that? Okay.
Yes.
You've got me back there.
Yep, I thought she'd just...
Phew. Yes.
I thought she'd get you back, because I thought that was in it. Councillor Kiramon?
Sorry, in terms of that, then happy to second, and I don't disagree if it just stays to inform the spatial plan. That's what it's there for.
Makes sense. Right, Councillor Kiramon?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, I've got a question here this time. We've got the Motueka master plan. We've got the Mapua master plan. In the middle is a little village called Tasman. What's going to happen with them? Because there's been talk about growing Tasman, doing all sorts of things. They've got issues with wastewater and water already. I would have thought that you've got a little slither of land and people there that have missed out on the master plan either side. So what's the reason for not including Tasman Village in it?
Through the chair, just to clarify in terms of this resolution, the approach will be that essentially there will be no further discussion around a Motueka master plan, because it will be discussed through regional spatial planning and adaptation planning processes. So Tasman Village will be able to be considered as part of their wider regional spatial planning process as well.
Sorry. Yeah, okay, right, thank you.
Right. Councillor Walker, and then I've got Councillor Ellis, I think you wanted to.
Thank you, through chair. You lost me when you said, I think it includes the whole of Motueka ward, which includes the areas that the Deputy Mayor spoke about. Now, I guess for me it's really frustrating, because we gave the 3 Mop ward councillors that were here last term a very clear steer about what our community wanted to see happen. And we went from, we came at this table with just the CBD. And then we finally pushed and pushed. And then the whole Mop master plan got dropped, because we have to do the spatial plan. Then the 3 councillors, yourself, we had that meeting. And the very last slide that I had to drill down on was about the scope of what the map looked like. And my understanding was very clear that you got from us that it needed to be the entire Motueka ward. Otherwise, again, you're cutting off some critical key points of, economics that come into our community, the wider district. So I just want a point of clarification to relieve my frustration is, will we go out actually fronting the conversation this is for the ward, the entire Motueka ward, and get feedback, or are we going to go out with a map that's very hard to identify exactly what it is and what it's not? Because I think, is not sitting well with me.
Through the chair, to clarify, as the resolution states, that this will be Motueka Ward Community Engagement.
Yes, I get that it's Motueka Ward Community Engagement, but the map, where are we talking about the engagement actually going? Like what's included and what's not? Where is your boundary lines, please?
It's the ward. So just to clarify, in terms of, we will be talking about opportunities and challenges for the Motueka ward. Anybody who has any interest in this area is welcome to participate in the engagement process.
Okay, so that's pretty clear. It's a whole ward, councillor. That's what it says. Mayor King?
Yeah, I guess, like I'm clear, it involves the Motueka ward, and the Motueka ward includes, I think, just about all the areas, I think, that have been mentioned by both Motueka ward councillors and deputy mayor. I do think it's inevitable you will get comment from it's just inevitable. You open up a consultation process, yet you can't define, if you get a letter or a submission or an input from someone just over the boundary, you don't go, sorry, we can't talk to you if you're on Waimea-Mutri. It seems inevitable that where the Seaview Heights kind of chunk of land is not that far away from the Tasman kind of area. It is a bit of an anomaly, like falling between, as Councillor Kinnamont's outlined, between the Mapua Master Plan and the Motueka Consultation, whatever it's called now, Education and Engagement Program, that will feed into the spatial plan. The spatial plan, by definition, will include the entire region. So I'm just assuming we'll be pragmatic, and that where people provide us input, feedback into the process that encompasses that kind of integrally connected component of Waimea-Mutri to this process, that we'll take that on board and include it in the information gathering, and it'll help inform the spatial plan when we get to it. Okay, well, on that basis, I'm happy with the resolution.
Okay, I've got Councillor Ellis, and then see if we can put a motion.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Great, I like to see that it's a whole ward approach. They're all interactive and everything else. Just something that's occurred to me, like one of those moments. When's our next representation review due? Does anyone know?
Sooner than it would otherwise have been. My understanding is we are going to have to I think we have to now redo it in this term, because of the decision around the Māori ward, and then the subsequent outcome of the referendum. Was that the election? I can get you more formal advice, but my understanding is we will have to redo that, given the outcome of the previous one and then the appeal to the Local Government Commission. I think it's going to be inevitable that the status quo is unlikely to survive the process. It's certainly going to have to be seriously reconsidered, which may mean that the exact boundaries, if that's what you're asking, may not be the same as they are for electoral purposes at the next council elections. So that is my understanding. We have to do it earlier than we otherwise would have because of the Māori ward and the referendum outcome. But the exact time frame I'll need to get your staff advice on.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of exactly what I was getting at. So where's the risk, and how are we going to manage that if we get boundary changes and all the rest of it, because we've put in there Motueka ward, which I agree with doing. So it's just, how are we setting ourselves up that we don't wind up in a bind later if there are changes?
Well, it's an input into a bigger picture. Yeah, it is. And so, in some respects, the boundaries are a little bit arbitrary for the, because you've got the economic inputs, you've got travel, you've got all sorts of things that overlap. So it will be, it is what it is, and we have to draw a line somewhere. So, but we'll look at the whole region as we go forward.
That's reassuring. It's what I just wanted to make sure that we weren't that we were not going to wind up in some sort of bond later. So that's great. That's reassuring. Thank you.
And it could all change because of central government. We never know. So we'll wait and see. All right. So no more questions. We'll put the motion. It was moved. Councillor Neubauer and Councillor Hume actually seconded it before the Deputy Mayor. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right. So now we'll move to item 7.4. Our aspirations and strategic priorities. So this is something we've workshopped. I think we spent 2 days on it. And I know that Councillor Butler has got a small amendment to some wording that she sent through.
Yeah, Leonie's going to talk to it, I think.
And CEO Leonie's going to talk, and I think someone else has got a small amendment, so we'll just carry on. Leonie and Steve, over to you.
Kia ora koutou. Right, so this has been a combination of the two workshops we had around the aspirations and strategic directions. The report points out why we need these as a requirement when you do a long-term plan, and it's very important for staff so that they can look at how that they can, I guess, rate what they do in terms of how it relates to these, and also if it doesn't fit with these, why doesn't it fit with these? When we came back last time, we talked about some changes, and I've included the changes there. I hope you see reflected. Well designed was one of them. Also, I added an extra one, which was at your request. So it was around being financially sustainable. What I've actually labelled it as intergenerational financial stewardship, which is for me more aspirational, and but included in that is actually balancing today's needs with tomorrow's costs to maintain financial sustainability and affordability for future generations. Now, there are some wording changes that CEDA is asking for, which we can talk about in a moment. But I really wanted to tell you that this doesn't lock us in forever. This is something that can be tweaked. It will also be consulted on as well as part of the long-term plan. So don't feel as if you might think there's a few wording tweaks you'd like, that they can't happen. They can. We just need to actually, I guess, say that this is the final draft version, and then we can move it on into our operations. These also have no financial implications. There's not asking us to fulfil those aspirations. We're going to increase our investment in assets, community facilities, etc. It doesn't tie us to anything, but it's a guide for our staff. And I'll give you a wee example. I've got one here around transportation, which is a pretty straightforward transportation. So when you're looking at a place where people can thrive, this is where communities are safe to travel. Our roads and facilities are resilient and safe. Improves pedestrian and cyclist safety, accessibility. And we also got public transport, enables mobility for people without access to a private vehicle. So those are the sort of things that would say that that's a place where people can thrive. I'll just pull out another one. The resilient sustainable infrastructure performs reliably over time and can withstand shocks and stresses. So that maintains and renews critical transport assets like roads and bridges, drainage, invests in network resilience to manage climate and growth risks, and reduce reactive failures and long-term costs through life cycle investment. So that's just being prudent, planning well. So that's how it shows up in some of you'll see them coming through in some of the group of activities workshops. The intergenerational financial stewardship in terms of roading. Council invests wisely over time, balancing affordability now with maintaining service levels and avoiding cost burdens on future ratepayers. So that's about prioritising renewals and preventive maintenance. It's about using whole-of-life costing and risk-based programming, and coordinates work and optimises funding, etc. So those are how our staff will translate these into what we would put into our long-term plans. If it sits outside of this, then we would be asking the question, why does it sit outside of that? And if it does, why should we be doing it? I know that these are quite broad, and you could probably lump everything into that. But what we want them to think about is how do what your activity contribute to these outcomes that we talked about in our workshops. So happy to take questions. The changes that that Celia is asking for, and I have written them down in here. We can do those tweaks afterwards if you agree to them, because it's not actually in the resolution. So we can make those changes if everyone is in agreement with them. To bring forward some of the feedback we've had from the community as we talk about preparing for climate change, that some of our community feel we're already in a changing climate right now, so we should be responding in that way. But one that Cecilia's got up there is while responding to climate natural hazards. That's concluded in our infrastructure. So is reliable, supports community and wellbeing and economic activity. So that's just saying that while we're doing that, we need to be considering natural hazards, etc. Where do we put our infrastructure? So I think that's actually quite a good addition. So I'm sure some of you would agree with that. And the last one is around the intergenerational financial stewardship and the changes there, balancing today's needs with tomorrow's costs to maintain long-term financial sustainability and affordability and climate resilience for future generations. So again, it's about investing, being financially prudent, being being financial sustainability means that what we do and what we build is resilient against climate change, so that we're not impacted and future generations aren't impacted by poorly designed, I guess, decisions today. So those are the changes. Hoping that we can get this through today, because our staff will be starting the group of activities sessions next week, and they are lining these up with those. As I said, it's a requirement of the LTP, and also and we workshop them with you, so hopefully you can see where your feedback is sitting. So happy to take any questions, any other amendments which we can take away.
Right, so I think Councillor Butler's amendment's already been incorporated.
Yeah.
So first I'll go to Councillor Butler and then Councillor Neubauer.
Yeah, thank you, through your chair. I think that it just cements in the resilience issue by putting more about the resilience into the outcomes. And more long term, and also brings in the reflects what was in the community voice, because the community voice for the resilient sustainable infrastructure had quite a lot in it about wanting to be resilient for the future. So that was my reasoning. I just felt that it actually brings it together a bit more. Thank you.
And I think Councillor Neubauer had some other suggestions as well, which could be incorporated in the future or taken into account.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to commend my colleague over there for bringing this up, because I think that clarifies, as she just pointed out, what came through from the public, and we kind of are now just a bit more precise in the way we're articulating that. Speaking about precision, though, I believe when we look at that point up there that talks about maintaining long-term financial sustainability, I think the word maintain might be better now changed to balance, because we're balancing it with resilience and future future generation. My main amendment or addition would be, however, a strategic priority added to the financial stewardship point that the CE has brought in, which I completely agree with. But I think there could be a new priority that's just up there that talks about future-proof council assets, services, and investment decisions through resilient and sustainable planning.
So these are very high level, and every time I've ended up doing a long-term plan, it gets down to dollars at the end, and there's never enough dollars.
And sorry, that should move over a column to the right, I think.
All right, I personally don't have any problem with that. And because, as I say, when it gets down to the end, there's never enough dollars for what you got to do. And this might be the last long-term plan we do. You never know what central government's going to do to us. We'll wait and see. Councillor Kittermont.
Thank you. Through the chair, I like what I see here. It gives everybody clear direction of focus and to think about their daily jobs, the decisions they're doing. Doesn't meet this, so that's good. My question is, how do you proceed to promote it, communicate? I read here some rather about a communication plan. Yeah.
How to communicate to staff or to
And the
public?
wider audience, the ratepayers and everyone, like our suppliers, that sort of thing.
They'll be it'll be in the long-term plan, and as I said, they can submit on it as well, so that these are open to consultation. In terms of, we could do a bit of a communications plan. I don't think there's any problem with us doing something on Newsline, perhaps, something like that. But for staff, they're already aware of them. They already understand them. We're already working with them. So they were very well aware of them. And they will show up in a lot of our reports, etc., in terms of how we can actually link what we're doing to these outcomes.
Can we just on the screen go to number 5, please? We're down to number 3. That's one. Approve the wide communication. So what's a wide communication? That's what I'm after.
Oh, that's just making it public. Wide public, I mean, Newsline
and that.
Yeah, Newsline and maybe on social media and through our channels. It's important that the community understand what this council has agreed on, and they can, and also the community can see themselves in these aspirations as well.
Right, I've got 2 people on Zoom with their hands up, so that were up earlier. Councillor Fernyhough.
Thank you. I just want to give my support behind this and also my support to Celia for including her comments about climate change. I'm not sure if people followed what happened in Nelson when they were looking at their strategic priorities and kind of kept climate change off. I know we're taking a different approach and having it embedded in a little bit more across all of our areas. And then I'm happy to second if it hasn't already been seconded.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with the wording that have been put up as such, but my concern is what is backing those words up. Because at the moment, in the last couple of weeks, for example, there's been a revelation that the RCP 8.5 report, which most climate change material refers to and is based on, has been described as implausible. And there's been a significant shift in exactly what this climate change thing means. So by including that words, I don't understand where our position is behind it, what's driving it, because I haven't had that question answered yet.
Chair, for clarity on what your question is, are you referring particularly to, and we have added while responding to climate and natural hazards? Is that the
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Well, my take on that is actually we say we rely supports community wellbeing and economic activity, but we need to respond to climate change and we need to make sure that when we're building infrastructure that it is resilient enough I would take, Christchurch, for example, in the earthquakes, the buildings are built today to withstand quite significant earthquakes now, and if they were damaged, then they can be repaired rather than having to be demolished. So that's what I would say that's talking about. It's actually saying when we build, thinking about all the hazards that we may well have, earthquakes, floods, etc., because they will continue. Alan might have a better explanation than me.
Yeah, no, just thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to Leonie's point is, you may remember in April we brought through at a LTP workshop a set of draft forecasting assumptions for the LTP. They included an assumption on climate change and an assumption on natural hazards, and we were socialising those with you and to see whether there was a degree of comfort with them. Certainly, my understanding of their workshop, those were largely accepted by elected members. There didn't seem to be any concern expressed at that time about the assumptions that we were making in respect to those two assumptions. Obviously, again, just to recap, we create those assumptions now so that we can do the planning in the LTP in a consistent way, so that everyone who's doing bits of planning in the process is working on the same basis. There will be an opportunity later in the process for councillors to formally adopt those assumptions, and we are required to publish those as part of the LTP. But certainly if councillors are now of a view that we need to revisit those assumptions, then we should do so as soon as possible to avoid if the sort of ground is shifting.
Just let Mr. Fletcher add something to it.
Yeah, I guess without admittedly having read the review of RCP 8.5 or whatever it's referred to, I guess that the climate change is inherently uncertain. I mean, the IPCC report has a wide range of scenarios, low to high, and a wide range of impacts that occur with that. So no denying that that the world could take many different paths into the future, and no one truly knows which path we'll take at this point. But what we do know is that the sea level is rising. It's rising in Tasman Bay, and we do know that rain intensity, the intensity of our storms is rising, and that we're getting more of them. So regardless of what your view is the potentially future scenario, we're experiencing these now, and we're anticipating experiencing them in the future. I guess as much as anything, my interpretation of that there is a no regrets approach. So that when we're looking at those sorts of things, we take into account uncertainty and make our best prediction of future-proofing our kit into the future so that we don't have any regrets. And I guess regardless of any uncertainty around future climate change scenarios, that's still, I guess, in my view, an admirable approach to take, because we do live with that today.
Thank you. Through the chair, see, that doesn't really alleviate my concerns any, because the traditional approach has been based off this report, as I say, which has taken the extremely high, which is now deemed implausible approach. You say it's obvious that our intensity and everything is increasing, yet the report we got said that it was 1871 since we had a weather event that intense, and 1983, 7 that we've had such a widespread event. Now, what's that, 35-year return period? I'm just not seeing. We know that it's definitely increasing in intensity. I mean, a 35-year return period is what we're looking at. Yeah, I think I would like to know more about exactly what's underpinning these words before you go and do a whole lot of work on that basis. So, I mean, I'm happy to approve those words because obviously you want to be future-proofing infrastructure, but yeah, when I see that report come back to us for approval, if you're basing it on extreme figures like this, then definitely increased intensity, then I'm probably not going to approve that.
Like I say, anything in this it could be more, it could be less. It's uncertain.
I was through you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to reiterate that point. So this is a set of aspirations that's not based on any one particular scenario, to whatever degree. And as you pointed out, if you're happy with the words, it is that we will be mindful of what we need to do. There's nothing particularly sitting behind it in respect of this document and what our aspirations are that we will or won't follow an RCP8 scenario. So I don't think we need to be concerned about whether or not we are taking ourselves down a particular trajectory in terms of what our response will be.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Morgan.
Look, my question is on page 65 on the matrix, or the words here on the resilient sustainable infrastructure one. We're talking about resilient sustainable under the aspirations. The outcome is reliable infrastructure. And then the strategic priority is growth pays for growth. Now, I'm trying to understand how that is relevant for resilient, sustainable infrastructure and reliable infrastructure. Really, the strategic outcome there, as discussed before, is about sound design, standards of design, etc. So I wonder, trying to comment on how that sort of fits on that line.
Through the chair, growth pays for growth is one element. The other ones there are resilient to climate and natural hazards, fit for purpose infrastructure, and acceptance of different service levels in different places. So all four of those things contribute to resilient, sustainable infrastructure. We're not saying that it is solely growth pays for growth. Does that clear up any confusion?
Well, as I say, there's nothing in the matrix that talks about good design. So in terms of infrastructure, to me, that's fundamental. I was wondering where that's going to be actually captured.
Through the chair, I mean, one of the strategic priorities under the resilient sustainable infrastructure is fit for purpose infrastructure, and that's intended to be a catch-all term for resilient, for meeting design standards, being able to do what it's supposed to do.
And through the chair, for Councillor Morgan, further down we say new development is well designed and fits within the environment. One of the changes we brought through was the addition of the word well designed.
Yeah. So the growth pays for growth, which we're having a lot of debate about at the moment. That assumption is what that assumption. How is that guiding thinking?
Through the chair, it's a strategic priority, not an assumption. It was very clear when we had a workshop that councillors were very determined that growth should pay for growth, and that and not the burden goes to the ratepayer, right? So that so that means that feeds through development contribution policies. It feeds through quite a few of our approaches. So that was quite strong coming from members.
I accept that the discussion was strong. It's just it's it would be a guiding line for management to say, well, this design, this greenfield is not going to pay for itself, so it's not in. Is that what you're saying?
If Leonie is happy for me to make a comment on this, sorry. I mean, there's a theme coming through a couple of these areas here, which is around providing good, fit for purpose, well designed, resilient infrastructure. I think the growth pays for growth is just making sure that that where we provide that for resilient, fit for purpose infrastructure for development, it's funded through growth, and that is certainly a current policy setting for the council, and this confirms that it's the policy setting you want going into the future.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Woods, Walker and Mara. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through the chair. Financial sustainability at the centre of all our decisions. Can we define financial sustainability in context of an organisation that has unlimited capacity to extract rates? I think, if we make that statement, we really need to back that one up.
Through the chair, so for financial sustainability is about making sure we have enough budget to meet our legal obligations. It also means that we are prudent with what we do have. It also means that we can afford to pay for asset renewals. It's quite broad what financial sustainability means. There's quite a few criteria, and I think it's actually to nail it as one thing would be very difficult. So I don't think the idea is that we continually go out to our community and continue to get more revenue. That's not what financial sustainability is about. So yeah, I mean, Dwayne and I talked about this morning actually, what that actually means, and we both sort of agree there's both kind of those three things: assets, and making sure that we meet our legal obligations and the level of service that this organisation sets within the envelope.
Okay, I'm not sure I've heard something that could be applied to a decision-making process though. Like, we're talking about applying it. So you're making a decision, you're going to bring financial sustainability into that decision. And yet we don't actually know what that looked like.
Well, I think you've been talking about that this morning, about asset renewals, putting in assets that are way ahead of a development that may sit in the ground for some time. It's those sort of decisions that we need to say, well, is that financially sustainable? Can we continue to do that? Do we continue to do investments? Do we diversify our investment portfolio so that we've got other income streams? It will feed through most things. At the moment, we're not that far off being completely financially sustainable. We've had a few challenges. We've had a bit of a couple of weather events, and that's put pressure on us. But actually, we're not that far off financial sustainability. We're 97% of a balanced budget for this month, and that's because we have already been acting in that way. We have been saying, if we do this, will we remain within that envelope?
Yeah, we're financially sustainable at almost a double-figure rate of rates increase. So for many of our ratepayers, actually what we're doing currently is not sustainable, even right now.
To respond to that through the chair, there have been decisions of council in past years that keeping rate increases low has meant that we're now in the position we are, around our asset renewals, etc. So those are decisions around this table. They weren't staff decisions, they were council decisions, and there were reasons for that at the time. You know, the 0% rate increase in the COVID year, lots of councils did that. Now lots of councils are now trying to catch up. So the decisions you make to try and cut rates down as low as you can quite often turn up many years later. And it's not future-proofing our financial sustainability. So that's where I would say that these decisions are actually really important that you councillors make in terms of what turns up in 10 years' time.
Well, you just threw the older councillors under the bus there, but I'll accept that.
Not a problem. Got broad shoulders. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through your chair. I get that these are aspirations, and it is really good that community does get an opportunity to give us some feedback through the long-term plan. I guess one that jumps out of me is the a strong, diverse and innovative local economy. And you read the middle one, and the last sentence in the middle line says, while aligning with Tasman's values and environmental limits. And then on the very right, we go, we are easy to do business with. Like, that is a fantastic aspiration, but there are many people in my community that would be telling us we need a lot of work going into that space for them to agree that we're easy to do business with. And when we talk about one sector in the community not being reliant on, there is a sector in our community that actually we have been reliant on, and we probably have obligations to continue to allow that particular industry to continue. But the part that gets me is that the values for Tasman and their environmental impact, and I'm talking about forestry, there is carnage that continues to be created. And when we say we're easy to do business with, I've got an association that really struggled to even come and share what their concerns are. I understand that the agenda was such that, you know, a 10-minute slot became a 5-minute, became a nothing slot, and then they come to an annual plan and they get squeezed to a 5-minute slot. Their feedback to me is that we're not easy to do business with. And in fact, the values of who we are in Maraho are very compromised. So I get this is an aspiration document, and I am sure you'll get feedback from that particular group. But we need to be able to talk the talk and also be seen to start to walk it. So I'm just putting it out there that yes, it's aspirational, but there's a lot of work that's got to go through to make this a positive.
Through the chair, I'll just respond to that. Our aspiration is to be easy to do business with, and I'm sure there's lots of parts of our organisation that are very easy to do business with. We have launched our promise, which is an internal promise and one of those is we are easy to do business with. Because regulation, if someone's applying for something in the regulatory space, it actually is quite a complex process. It's never easy. And I've been quite close to that. But there are ways we can make it easier. Better information up front. So we're working on that and we're rolling that out as we speak. And we also have a customer experience specialist who is helping us with that. Because it's really important that we're all on the same page. So I think it's actually a great priority to have in there. And whether we've reached it now or we're reached into the future, the thing is we need to reach it across the whole organisation as soon as possible. But I would also argue that there's many areas in this council where we are very easy to work with.
Okay, we'll keep going. We've got two more people and then I intend to put this and move on. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And actually, that's the one I like the best that we are, because that's the bit that we can control. So, might not like the decisions of council, but the fact that we're easy to interact with is, I really like. I guess it's probably a follow on from Dean's, and I'm not going to lose any sleep in terms of the words or the new one that got added, but the unintended addition of new things, what does it actually mean? So if the other one around sustainable and resilient, sustainable infrastructure, if the underlying push is to, that's an argument for not looking at specific greenfields developments, then I hate it. I'd say, while they're words, but where they're used as debates for specific policy and plan change is the challenge I have. But I guess if we're accepting it's just a aspirational statement that we'll get feedback on, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but words are quite important.
Councillor Kilmore, then I intend to put this. You have something to add?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman. Just up on the board at the moment, we've got the words protect intergenerational equity. Can you explain to me where staff would use that aspirational activity in their day-to-day work?
Through the chair, not all staff will do that. Use that in their day-to-day work. This is where when we start doing our planning, our asset planning, and renewals, etc., and how we program those, because debt is the best way to spread out costs over generations. So there are people paying for it as they go through. What we don't want to do today is to load a lot of debt onto future generations that's going to be unaffordable into the future. So that's what that intergenerational equity, that everyone pays on their way through, rather than being lumped on one potential generation, etc. So that's what protecting intergenerational equity actually means.
Okay, so without going too far, it's just a matter of degree or how much we load them up is what Councillor Woods is referring to as well, I think. So, okay, no, thanks for the explanation.
Board Member Lusk.
Thank you. Through the chair, in reference to Councillor Butler's amendments, I think that from the point of view of the Motueka Ward, I think there's a lot of strength to those amendments. Leonie Ray was just saying that we're almost financially sustainable except for the weather events in June and July. The Motueka Ward is still undergoing a lot of building, a lot of roading and things like that to be able to make up. We have the Sandy Bay Marahau Road closed because they're having to do so much work on it because of the damage from storms. Those amendments don't say climate change. They say climate and natural hazards. We do have climate hazards. We do have natural hazards. It doesn't have to be a future thing. We do need to look to the future, but we also need to be looking to what's happening right now. And right now, every meeting that we have for this comes back to the insurance payouts. Will the insurance be paid out? How is it that we're going to fund the things which are happening now? And I think that keeping a view to that in planning helps us to not end up in the situation that we're in now, because these hazards are occurring. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've already been through.
Yeah, well, I would just like to point out that what I was adding before hasn't been added. There was a word, sorry to be finicky, but I mean, we are deciding this now. Can we go down?
This could be amended through the long-term plan.
Are we doing later?
Yeah, this can be amended through the
Okay,
long-term
well, we'll
plan.
do it.
Yeah. All right. So let's put this and get on, because we've got it's 12 o'clock and we've got to go into confidential and do some more. So we've got the resolution on the board. We've had a good point. This will be tweaked later. That's the big thing. It's a draft. So it was moved Councillor Butler, seconded Councillor Fernyhough. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. And thank you, Leonie, and your team. Now we'll, I've got a resolution here to move into confidential, that the public be excluded due to Section 48(1) of the Local Government and Official Information and Meetings Act. For the passing of this, we're relying on that section, and also particular interests protected under Section 6 and Section 7 of the Act, which would be prejudicial to holding the whole or relevant part of the proceedings of the meeting in public. Would someone like to move? Councillor Kittermont, seconded. Deputy Mayor? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And we'll wait for